So dividends, right? Because this is something that we haven't covered. And a lot of people have heard of dividends, but they don't fully understand what a dividend is. So what is a dividend?
Yeah, you said that's one of the strategies you use, right?
Yeah, I love them.
Stocks with
yeah,
them.
so what happens is dividends are a portion of the profit that companies pay to people who are invested in a business. Not the revenue, but the profit. So if I have a business that brings in $10,000 a month and I profit $5,000 a month, then out of that $5,000, I'll take a percentage of that, which is called the dividend yield, and I'll pay it to my investors as a part of saying, hey, thank you for investing in my business.
Is it paid equally, or is it obviously depending on how many shares you have, you get more?
The dividend is the same. Yeah. So if I pay 50 cents a share, which is $2 a year, everybody gets that. Depending on how much you have, if you got 5, I have 10, he have 15, then we'll all get a different amount. But the underlying asset value is the same.
So what are some top companies as far as dividends these days? What are they paying?
AT&T pays 6%.
6%.
That's major. Now, so this is the dope part. So we talk about real estate, right? The real estate aspect of the stock market, which is called real estate investment trust, which is
a REIT,
which is saying I can own Walmart as a business and I can own the people who Walmart pay rent to, because they don't own the building, they just own the name. Like Amazon has a warehouse. I can own Amazon and I can also own the warehouse who Amazon pays the rent to. REITs pay higher dividends. We talking 12%, 9%, 7%. So individual stocks, AT&T, Macy's, CenturyLink. Now that's a bad business, but they pay a high dividend. That's what's called a dividend trap. We're not gonna get into that.
Are they dispersed quarterly? How are they dispersed?
So every business is different. So with the REITs, they come out, some of them pay monthly. And so remember I was telling you that I have businesses. One of my businesses is Apple Realty. They own 128 Sheratons and Hiltons and 200 and something Marriotts. They're not going out of business anytime soon. But they pay me, I think, at a 9% rate on their REITs. And they pay that monthly. So every month they're paying me.
So that's 9% on the money that you have invested?
No, that's 9% of the stock price.
Okay.
Right, so that's all a dividend yield is. So a dividend yield is this. If the stock price is $100 and a dividend yield is 5%, then your dividend is 5% of that $100. Okay. That's what you're getting paid.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. It's passive.
Super passive.
But you do have to have large amounts for it to...
This is true.
But you were saying that you have to start looking at it like, okay, this will pay my cell phone bill.
Yeah. What's your freedom price?
Can you explain that?
You talked about AT&T, but you got to create AT&T store.
So what happened to me was I started asking myself, how do I buy back my freedom? Right? Like, how do I buy it back?
That's powerful.
Right? Because it's not given to you. Just like, chattel slavery. Like, I'm not going to give it to you. You got to buy it back. You got to fight for it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how do I buy back my freedom? With the stock market. Because you can't save to invest to get it back, right? We know that. You can't work a bunch of hours to get it back. So the next best thing for me was dividends. So I was like, okay, what do I use every day? My phone bill, AT&T, and I have an Apple product. So because AT&T pays a 5%, 6% dividend yield, I was like, okay, I need this many shares of this business to pay off my phone bill every 4 months, because AT&T pays quarterly, which is every 3 months. Mm-hmm. Disney pays semi-annually, which is twice a year. And then you have some businesses that pay every month, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, if I can get AT&T to pay my phone bill through their dividends 4 times a year, then I have essentially bought back my freedom because I no longer have to work to pay for that phone bill. AT&T paying it for me. And so you can do that with if you're in Georgia, you can use Southern Company, which is another great dividend business. How much is your phone bill? I mean, your light bill, $80, $100. They pay like a 3-4% dividend. Figure out how much the dividend is per quarter, how many shares you'll need of that business, and then let that pay your light bill. So if you can use your dividends from a business to pay your light bill and your phone bill, you've bought back some of your freedom. Because now you can take that money and invest it and do something else with it.
Absolutely.
That's optimizing your money. The money is just a tool. We know that much. So if we can use the tool to do what it's supposed to do, then we get maximum value for it.
And that's so once you fully understand investing, you start to understand that it's like Spanish, right? So I don't know how many Spanish people are in New Orleans, but
You got a few.
half of like 70% of New York is Spanish. Maybe not. 50%.
Okay.
50% of
New
New
York
York.
City.
Yeah, 50% of New York is
Spanish
Spanish.
speaking. It's a lot.
So I say that to say, when you're around Spanish enough, you start to understand it a little bit better. Maybe you might not be able to speak it, but you can kind of have a general understanding of it, right? The same thing with investing. When you're around the language of investing, it starts to make sense, and you realize that they're all kind of similar. It's just like, actually, when you learn foreign languages, like Spanish is similar to French. They all come from like
Spanish, Portuguese.
Yeah, they're all kind of similar. I forget where the root came from, but long story short of it is that what you just explained was the same theory that DJ Envy explained to us when he says that he doesn't buy any liability until he has an asset to pay for it. His thing is real estate. So he buys a home, and now he has a home to actually pay rental for his Lamborghini or something like that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I feel that.
You just breaking it down on a small level.
Right.
But
I mean, that's key though, right? If you break it out a small level, like
well, yeah. And then also
common
what
to
people
us.
have to understand too is that so people might say, okay, well, I got to put $2,000 into a stock to get $100 dividend. It's not worth it. But the thing about it is that it's not like you're paying for something, you're investing. So that $2,000 is going to grow over the course of time while you're getting your dividend. So it's not like you just putting your money into Never Ever Land. It's actually going to an investment that'll probably gain value over the course of time. But in the meantime, you're actually gaining income that you can use via the dividend. And now you can actually use that to support your lifestyle. Because like you said, you got to find a way to actually make money while you're sleeping. That's what Warren Buffett said, right? He said, if you don't make money while you're asleep, you work till you die. So by doing that, now you're actually, okay, now I can, like you said, you can focus on, okay, now I did that. Now I got to do something to pay my rent. I got to do something to pay my mortgage. And I got to do something to pay my car bill. And then before you know it, you're not actually paying anything yourself. It's all being paid for you, which leaves you more money because that $200 now you can actually reinvest and do other things and just kind of like a domino effect.
It's like Lord of the Slum said. He was like, yo, I treat money like little soldiers. They have to go work.
Listen, but also, he's forgetting something that's major. The ownership.
Yep.
You feel me? So while your money is working for you through the dividends, your ownership, your equity is also increasing.
Yeah.
So that's how you leverage the game with that.
Yeah. And that's something that people don't understand either. It's like people's like, well, everybody's not an entrepreneur. I don't want to own a business. There's a lot that comes with owning a business, but there's more than one way to own a business. If you buy stock, you're an owner in that company. That's probably the easiest way to own a business. Now you're not going to be a majority owner, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
You're still an owner.
1% of something is better than 0%.
But listen, so Warren Buffett owns 6% of Coca-Cola, right? So he's still not a majority owner, but he still has say-so. And this is the one thing about the stock market that I love. I still can vote on every business that I own, and they have to acknowledge me. Like, I literally bought 3 shares of Berkshire Hathaway B. Let's make sure I say that B.
What's the A? Like 100 something thousand?
Nah, go up 2 more hundred. It's 300 and something thousand.
Please,
right?
there's a difference.
There's a big difference. So let me say, because I don't want nobody to be like, hey, man, you ain't got no.
Man, I heard you on that podcast.
You feel me? So I literally bought 3 shares of Berkshire B.
Which is Warren Buffett's company for anybody that
Yes.
doesn't know.
I bought my daughter. That's another thing. So at 3 years old, my daughter has $5,000 invested in the stock market.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about that. You can
Yeah,
finish
cool.
it. I'm gonna ask you about that.
But I bought 3 shares of Berkshire B so I could go to the Warren Buffett annual meeting, and I had right to vote on anything.
In Omaha?
Yeah.
Did you go?
I went to NIPS. That's when everything
Okay.
happened. I'm going next year.
Okay.
For sure. And the only way you can go is if you own at least 1 share. Right? So I was like, okay, cool. And you actually get to talk to this man.